Welcome aboard, everyone. Prepare yourselves, because the scale is set for a morality breakdown on... It's hard to believe it's been years since the debut of a speedy blue hedgehog thwarting the evil plot of a giant talking egg.
What was that?
And here we are now, where Sonic has made quite the number of allies and enemies, each one with their own characteristics on his many adventures, besting whatever evil comes his way. But just where do all of these colourful individuals place on a scale of morality? You'll find out. I'm one of those guys that likes to know the criteria whenever I watch videos that have them. I recommend you watch as I establish it, otherwise feel free to skip it. These bulletin points are what you should expect for every morality breakdown in general. As for this morality breakdown in particular, only the mainstream game versions of the characters will be featured here. This also means no versions of the characters seen in the storybook games, nor from the classic dimension, and no characters who debuted in other media. As for the games themselves, expect no mention from any of the mobile, kart racing, Olympic crossovers, and party-themed titles. In this spectrum you see before you, we have 24 spots to fill. Why 24? Because there are 24 hours in the day, and so the breakdown isn't too long. Just because it can be done, for this morality breakdown will begin in the middle, work our way out, and end at each end. With 4 spots in total, the line between good and evil is drawn across the center of the spectrum. The morality of the characters here are bordering on it. This is the neutral tier. For vague evil, we have the Babylon Rogues, Jet the Hawk, Wave the Swallow, and Storm the Albatross. Even though these guys land here, they are the closest characters compared to the others to be true neutral. Although they have no interest in world domination, they are an infamous group with the preceding reputation for thievery, hence their greed, and riding extreme gear, both which dates back to a long time ago. Then there's the intense rivalry between them and Team Sonic regarding extreme gear. Jet is the leader of the group and has quite the ego when it comes to his skills on the gear, though to be fair they are world class, and even though his greed is greater than both his teammates, like when he daydreams about swimming in gold, Jet is a far more honourable competitor, only counting the victories that he's won fair and square and having little to no regrets when losing to worthy opponents. Wave is the brains of the group, where she'd do anything to win, even if she has to cheat or sabotage to ensure victory for the rogues, knowing full well Jet is against such means, showing just how dishonorable she is compared to her teammates. In other words, she's a jerk. Storm is the brawn of the group, and a bit of a bonehead, given his bad manners, plus the fact he tried to blame others for his own faults and failures. But he is more obedient and loyal to Jet than Wave is, following his orders with enthusiasm and without complaint. Ever since the Babylon Rogues first heard of Team Sonic, the rivalry between each group is just as fierce as ever with each encounter. For slight evil, we have Chaos and Merlina. Both were the main villains in their debuts before almost immediately turning over new leaves after being defeated by Sonic. Chaos is a mutant Chow with a body made of water, hence his many hydrokinetic abilities, who during Tikal's time had a gentle demeanor with a warm heart. He was the protector of all the Chow as well as the guardian of the Master Emerald and Chaos Emeralds until one day the selfish assault on the Emerald Shrine by the Echidna tribe led by Tikal's father, which resulted in Tikal and the Chow getting hurt, caused Chaos to become blinded by sadness and rage that he did not hesitate to end them before all his negative emotions consumed him to the point that all he wanted to do was destroy the rest of the world. This forced Tikal to seal him in the Master Emerald for years. It's hard not to feel bad for him. By the time Chaos was reawakened, his his desire to destroy the world was realized thanks to absorbing the negative energy of the Chaos Emeralds. But thankfully, after his defeat by Sonic, his gentle demeanor was restored and he left in peace. Good for him. Merlina is a wizard from the storybook world of Camelot and the granddaughter of the legendary wizard Merlin, who in this version of the tale of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table conjured up an illusionary King Arthur to serve as the benevolent and noble ruler of the land before said illusion turned into an evil tyrant known as the Black Knight. Merlina, having loved and cherished every aspect of the kingdom, followed in her grandfather's footsteps in terms of being a wizard and serving the royal court as he did before her, until she discovered that the kingdom will one day meet its end. Sadly, this fact caused the wizard to become blind and consumed in sorrow, with a commitment to do whatever it took to make Camelot an eternal kingdom. Merlina needed the scabbard of Excalibur, a powerful artifact in the sheath that corrupted Arthur, for its ability to grant immortality to fully realize her goal. So she summoned Sonic from his world and tricked him into slaying the Black Knight and claiming the scabbard for her, which she used to turn into the Dark Queen and make Camelot everlasting. This had the side effect of ruining the rest of the world, and once Sonic learnt of her true motives, she tried to get him to sympathize with her, only for him to remain unfazed before the two agreed to a final battle, which fortunately ended in Merlina's defeat, returning her to normal and undoing her plan. Thankfully, it's here she finally accepts the fact that nothing lasts forever. Merlina fought for a cause, which she believes to be a noble one, but because this was also a selfish attempt to escape her sorrow, she failed the moment she set her plan in action.
Grandfather.
For vague good, we have Rouge the Bat, a sassy treasure hunter, an undercover agent for Gun, and, as we viewers discover upon a first glimpse, a jewel thief too, as she tried to steal the Master Emerald from Knuckles, immediately giving him a bad first impression of her, and after he explained the emerald's purpose, she still wanted to steal it. Even so, Rouge isn't that bad. She takes all her gun missions quite seriously, and she did hand the Master Emerald pieces she collected back to Knuckles, though he did save her from falling into a fiery pit from a great height. But by far her most redeeming qualities are setting aside her own problems when the world's in danger, at least until the conflict is resolved, and her loyalty to her friends, mostly Shadow and Omega, ever since she formed Team Dark with them. Over time, she improves these qualities immensely.
Even if you believe everyone in the world will be against you, know that I'll always remain by your side. Remember that.
For slight good, we have E102 Gamma and E123 Omega. Both free-willed robots are part of Eggman's line of E-series robots, with Gamma being the second one created of the E100s after E101 Beta and the prototype E100 Alpha, better known as Zero, and Omega being the very last of the E100s. The funny thing is that their placement here involves Eggman, as both robots defected from him to the good side, but for different reasons and their own self-set missions. Gamma was originally planning to carry out his intended programming, which was to destroy Sonic, until he met a captured Amy and Flicky in the Egg Carrier's prison hold, and after conversing with them a bit, he freed them before confronting Sonic, where the two dropped their fight thanks to Amy's intervention, and it was at that point he defected from Eggman and made it his mission to destroy his fellow robots and liberate the Flickies powering them. Gamma defeated E103 Delta, E104 Epsilon, and E105 Zeta with ease, but when it came to his battle with Beta, it was a bittersweet victory, as both robots destroyed each other, thus Gamma having accomplished his mission. Omega has an everlasting grudge against Eggman, as the former abandoned him in a room that held Shadow in a status capsule, where the robot felt his potential was wasted, until Rouge snuck in and broke the fight between Omega and the newly awoken Shadow. From that point, he made it his mission to get revenge on Eggman by proving himself superior to every new robot the Doctor creates, besides helping out Shadow and Rouge on occasion. But whenever a larger threat makes itself known, he's able to put aside his feelings to do his part against it. With 3 spots on each side, things may get dull. The morality of the characters here are simple-minded and tend to be overlooked when compared to everyone else. This is the common tier. For minor good, we have Team Rose, Amy Rose, Cream the Rabbit, and Big the Cat. This might be a controversial choice, but hopefully my explanation on their placement here makes sense, somewhat at least. Amy has been through quite the number of adventures and has done many good things regarding them, like helping a young Flicky reunite with its family, on top of talking Sonic out of destroying Gamma, getting through to Shadow to help stop Space Colony Ark from crashing into the Earth when no one else could, and teaming up with Cream and Big to find Chocola and Froggy. Her best moments were during the time she spent in Soliana, where she didn't hesitate to help Silver find who he's looking for, before standing her ground against him after learning it was Sonic he was looking for to kill. She also helped Elise escape Eggman's base undetected, although her being there was troubling in of itself. Amy also has her not-so-good moments as well, which sadly, almost all of them revolve around her romantic interest in Sonic, such as whining about being left behind before eventually pulling herself together. There's also the time that Amy herself was the one to initiate the fights when her team crossed paths with both Team Sonic, where she demanded Sonic to marry her, which thankfully he and his team managed to escape, and Team Chaotix, where Vector wanted to ask a question of a serious matter, and her rude response caused a huge misunderstanding between the teams. A little brat indeed. And most notably, Amy is prone to anger and lashing out violently, even over the smallest of things, sometimes pulling out her hammer, intending to beat whoever upset her, regardless of whether or not it was accidental.
You totally got me this time. I had no idea.
Sadly, it's Sonic who falls victim to it the most, due to his dislike of all her romantic gestures. Then there's Big, who is named as such for ironic reasons there's no need to go into, and has 3 things that define him: sleeping, fishing, and his froggy friend Froggy. Throughout his small number of adventures, Big was nothing but determined to reunite with Froggy and keep him safe, the first time on his own, and the second time teaming up with Amy and Cream to find Chocola as well. Unfortunately, Big does nothing to stop the misunderstanding between his team and Team Chaotix, but kudos to him for sticking by his friends. Simply put, he's a simple guy with a simple life. And Cream, despite her young age, is the most well-mannered and polite person in the series, thanks to her mother Vanilla's teachings. Her child companion for life, Cheese, shares this trait with her, since he's always by her side. Cream also has quite the determination, as during her first adventure, she wanted to do her part to help Sonic foil Eggman's plan, as her mother was kidnapped. Let's not forget, she was the first person to befriend Blaze, helping her reclaim the Soul Emeralds, and alongside Sonic, helped the cat open up to others and befriend them. Cream too has her faults just like everyone else. While trying to find Chocola and Froggy, she simply nodded along Amy's attempts to force Sonic into marriage, hardly listened to him when she accused him of Chocola and Froggy's disappearance, and she too did nothing to stop the misunderstanding between her team and Team Chaotix. Now, while all members of Team Rose are good guys, there are others, a few more around Cream's age, that know better or have done things I feel are far more noteworthy. For plain good, we have Team Chaotix, Espio the Chameleon, Charmy Bee, and Vector the Crocodile, a trio of detectives who run their own detective agency. Amongst the main cast, this team has just about the least amount of on-screen game appearances, but each appearance is critical to their place here. Vector is SBO and Charmy's boss, and generally has the final say in their decisions, but he's not a bad one, or a bad guy by any means. Vector may be greedier when it comes to money, but it's mainly because he wants to pay rent and get out of debt. Plus, there's the fact that he'd never take on work with pay that's dishonest, showing he knows where his morals are. His soft side is shown quite a few times, from the respect, faith, and well-being he has for SBO and Charmy, to the sympathy he showed Shadow when he believed the world was better off without him.
Hey, don't go there! Yet, things may not be what they seem. You could be.
On the flip side, Vector has a bit of a temper, resulting in frustration or coming off a bit rude, sometimes even resorting to insults.
Get back here, you idiot!
But to be fair, there are times where it's justified.
That's Lightball!
Charmy is a young and very hyperactive kid, so the fact that he has a job being part of a detective agency is good and well.
I'm a freebie! 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 Whee!
Anyway, while for the most part his hyperactivity isn't too bad for someone his age, Charmy still comes across as very irritating and annoying, especially to Vector. At the same time though, Charmy does a good job with the tasks he's given, and is one of the few guys able to crack jokes and laugh during the war to take back the world. That's actually really good for a youngster. SBO is the most alert and serious member of his team, though that's a given since he's a ninja. This also makes him quick to judge others and act more wary when it comes to accepting jobs with pay from clients, even though they may be honorable. But regardless, he gives a 100% effort to see each job through to the end, following Vector's orders without complaint. Given SBO's level-headedness, he's the most understanding of the group and always acknowledges the mistakes he makes, doing what he can to atone for them, like the time he encountered Silver during the Chow disappearances, and immediately offered his help and trust after misjudging him, though it landed him in trouble with Vector for unintentionally abandoning his prior task. This is a team of detectives where each of them is good at their job and are good people that want their agency to be taken seriously. For major good, we have Tikal, Princess Elise III, Marine the Raccoon, and Yacker. 4 characters who have no connection to each other, but have some sort of connection with Sonic, playing a big part in the adventure he encounters them. Tikal is Knuckles' ancestor from 3 millennia ago, where she was a dear friend to Chaos and all the Chow he protected, but sadly couldn't do much when it came to preventing her clan's selfish ambush on the Emerald Shrine, led by her father no less. But she did what she could and stood her ground, getting hurt in the process, before deciding for the best to seal herself with Chaos in the Master Emerald. In the present day, when Chaos was reawakened, Tikal acted as a guide, mainly for Sonic and Knuckles, from pointing them in the right direction when lost to showing them glimpses of her time with Chaos. When Chaos finally reached his perfect form, Tikal felt that sealing him away again would be the only way to stop his destruction, at least until before Sonic defeated him, which ultimately resulted in both Tikal and Chaos leaving in peace and their spirits finally at rest.
The fighting's over, harmony's restored, and life goes on.
Quick note, I'm well aware that Elise is very disliked by the majority of this community, but she still meets the requirements to at least share the same spot with the others in this breakdown. Okay then. Elise is the princess and current ruler of Soliana, the city of water. At first glance, she's seen as a noble and kind ruler beloved by all her citizens. As we get to know her, we learn she's burdened with Iblis sealed in her soul 10 years prior due to a terrible mistake her father caused, which cost him his life and forced Elise to hold in her tears to avoid breaking said seal. Okay, yes, she does hold the record for being held captive by Eggman in a single adventure, which is about 4 times. Still, she did grow stronger and braver with each capture, from falling from a dangerous height, not caring about her safety, which took guts, to giving herself up to Eggman when he threatened the lives of her people, showing that she loves her citizens just as much. But the greatest act she's ever done, on top of everything else, is the reason why she's this high up on the spectrum. After Solaris is defeated, Elise, along with Sonic, got transported back in time to when Solaris was at his most vulnerable state. A tiny flame that once put out would reset the timeline to where Solaris would never exist, but would also undo the cherished friendship Elise formed with Sonic.
I don't care what happens to the world.
Okay, so she cries about the unfairness of it all, but can you blame the poor girl? After everything she went through, she's finally able to let her tears flow without any consequences. Besides, she still blows out the flame, and with a smile no less. It was the hardest call she ever had to answer, and the world is better off for it. Marine is a young, overly adventurous girl, and probably Tails' counterpart, hailing from the same dimension as Blaze, who dreams to traverse the seas as captain of her own ship. When Sonic and Tails crash-landed near the village she calls home, Marine was kind enough to offer them a place to stay, and in return, she joined them on their adventure, which is where her not-so-good traits get shown off, unfortunately lasting for most of her time with them and Blaze when she joins the three. Marine turned out to be quite the scatterbrain, always going off on her own, despite her friends warning her otherwise. Everywhere they went, Marine would either act like a know-it-all, treat her friends like lackeys, and whine when things don't go her way, all which finally led to being called out as a nuisance. Luckily, Marine took that comment somewhat seriously and was able to fully redeem herself, as well as earn her place on the spectrum by being the one to reclaim the jeweled scepter for Blaze, agreeing to be more careful, and developing the courage to recognize her own shortcomings. Now she has a friendship with Blaze similar to the one Tails has with Sonic. Good on you, Marine. Yaker is an alien and is among the most innocent characters in the series alongside the rest of his fellow wisps.
Wisps?
No, wisps with a W.
Yeah, I'll just stick with aliens if that's okay with everybody.
Who made their debut when Eggman constructed an interstellar amusement park where they were sadly held captive due to the Doctor wanting to harness their energy for a mind control weapon.
Ah, not nearly enough aliens.
Fortunately, Yaker got to meet Sonic and Tails to get their help, and in return, he and the rest of the Wisps, upon their freedom, guided an unconscious Sonic back to Earth after having failed to outrun the black hole that consumed the entire park. Nice job, guys. And shortly after, Yaker was able to express his gratitude to Sonic and Tails on behalf of all the Wisps before they all left for home. It's like all of them are of a single mind capable of only one thought at a time, or I could be reading too much into it. It's kind of funny how these 4 characters play similar roles during the time they each spent with Sonic, and yet they couldn't be any more different from one another. Morality Breakdown is paused for the following messages. Okay, Morality Breakdown can resume play. For minor evil, we have Gerald Robotnik, a grandfather to both Eggman and Maria, and the creator of Shadow. What was once a scientific genius for the people sadly turned insane, which almost destroyed the world after dying a broken man. Because Maria suffered the incurable disease, neuroimmune deficiency syndrome, that worsens with time, which renders its victims fragile, physically weak, and in constant need of medical attention, Gerald led a team of medical scientists in Space Colony Ark to develop the ultimate life form as a means to find a cure to said illness, as well as benefit all of mankind in general, resulting in Shadow's creation. During the process, he made his greatest mistake by contacting the passing by Black Comet and asking Black Doom to help him complete his work, but was able to rectify that mistake after realizing it.
I made a terrible mistake, Shadow. It's all my fault. Making contact with that comet.
Shortly after the completion of Shadow, the Ark got infiltrated by the Guardian Units of Nations, or GUN for short, which resulted in Gerald getting arrested and locked away in Prison Island, where he learnt of Maria's death, and Shadow getting ejected from the Ark. This ended up driving the scientist into an unshakable madness, who spent the rest of his days putting last-minute touches on Shadow before sealing him away for the next 50 years, and plotting to destroy mankind as an act of revenge for the loss of everything he loved.
Is there anything else you want to say? No.
Gosh, that sure is a sad way to go out. For plain evil, we have Orbot and Cubot, two small robots. One is shaped like an orb, the other shaped like a cube, hence their names, who are practically equal in every way. Both serve as a henchman and lackey to Eggman, doing the tasks that their creator can't be bothered doing himself, and are equally lazy in different ways when it comes to said tasks, but they still manage to complete them. But that's where the similarities between them ends, as each one has a distinct attitude. Orbot comes off as the straight man, honest and blunt to a fault, with no filter.
How is laughing last special? Isn't that like being the slowest one to get the joke?
Like the prototype before him, SA-55. But that robot had a sarcasm that constantly riled up Eggman. Cubot, on the other hand, comes off as the comic relief, dim-witted and slow on the uptake.
You talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you. There's nobody else here, so I must be talking to you.
Regardless of their traits, however, the fact that they follow Eggman's evil ways, knowing it's wrong, is bad enough to place them on this spot of the spectrum. For major evil, we have Metal Sonic, the deadliest of all Eggman's robotic creations, designed to be Sonic's robotic doppelganger, matching the hero in every aspect. Metal Sonic's morality, however, simply put, is a flipped version of Sonic's morality. He's as cold-hearted as his shiny exterior, aggressive and violent in just about everything he does, having been so ever since his debut on Little Planet. From that initial defeat by his organic template, the robot bore grudge against him that turned into a burning hatred, and due to losing every single face-off, developed a superiority complex. Now, Metal Sonic's one and only goal is to claim victory over Sonic, where he'll do whatever it takes to see it through, including turning on his creator. It's a goal he's become more obsessed with after every failed attempt. It even once reached a point where the robot believed himself to be the real Sonic, while the organic was his copy.
It's no use. But why can't I defeat you?
Because we're Sonic heroes.
Teaming up with Shadow to defeat Eggman, Nega, and the Ifrit, without complaint I might add, is the only thing preventing him from placing any lower. With 4 spots on each side, things are really looking up, or down depending on how they're looked at. The morality of the characters here are ones more serious than they appear to be. This is the genuine tier. For notable evil, we have the Deadly Six, Zaz, Zomim, Zik, Xena, Zor, and Zavik, a group of Zetis whom reside in the Lost Hex, which is located high in the sky of Sonic's world and is surrounded by clouds. Prior to Eggman enslaving them with a cacophonic conch, a device that gives off a low-pitched sound which hinders their ability to manipulate magnetic fields and causes them a great deal of pain when blown into it. Not much is known about the group other than being formed by Zik and led by Zavik, but it can be well assumed that they've committed terrible acts, as the first impression we get from each member, despite their enslavement, is a very bad one. Despite their distinct personalities, it's easy to tell each member apart with how deadly each one is. Zaz is wild, crazy, and very unpredictable, to the point he always acts without thinking, ergo having a very short fuse
gonna mess you up!
and always accepting whatever task he's given. This makes him a danger to everyone around him, including himself. Zombim is highly sensitive, low in self-esteem,
Who are you calling fat?
and very dim-witted, which he's well aware of. He also has an appetite that never ends. In fact, the smallest mention of food is enough to motivate him. Even with all this, he's really slow on the uptake. Zik is noticeably wise and perceptive, though that can be due to his very old age. But just because he's old doesn't mean he should be taken lightly.
It'll be good to stretch these old bones.
Given his calm but firm demeanor and how he remains unfazed by taunts or insults, not to mention his pride in the others whenever they plan or do anything evil, or the fact that it was his idea to turn Sonic into a robotic slave for the group. Xena is feisty, very selfish, and extremely prideful when it comes to her appearance.
Now I have to reapply a whole new coat.
As she spends all her time making sure she looks her best. Thus, she has little to no initiative to carry out the tasks given to her. Zora is whiny, emotionless, quite quiet, and one with the shadows, both in a physical and mental sense, hence why he serves as the group's spy. He has little to no expectations about everything
Sigh, everything seems so pointless.
and is devoid of any life and hope. Zavok is cruel, ferocious, and profoundly serious with a low tolerance for failure. He likes to observe and study his opponents before confronting them on either a physical or emotional level. He's also one of the very few characters able to get Sonic to lose his cool.
He'll be much happier as a robot.
No!
Each member of the Deadly Six is violent, malicious, and thrives on accomplishing tasks that only benefit themselves, with little regard to anyone else, as they are far more selfish than psychotic. For definite evil, we have Infinite. Once known as the ultimate mercenary until his effortless defeat at the hands of Shadow, where he then fused with the Phantom Ruby, spreading fear and war-torn ruin across the world, now is currently MIA, with his personality playing a big part throughout his entire ordeal. Before his fusion with the Ruby, Infinite was violent, heartless, and quite prideful in his skills as a mercenary, to the point he fearlessly believed himself to be second to none in terms of power. After the fusion, he adopted a new persona where his traits took a much darker turn, as well as gaining a huge ego, and where he hid his former self behind a mask due to the overwhelming fear and weakness experienced before so.
I am not weak!
It's like when Sonic said, his mask can't hide just how sad and lonely he is. And speaking of Infinite's ego, it's a superiority complex in a class all its own, as it ultimately ends up being his downfall due to sparing Sonic and the customizable hero in battles prior, which allowed the two to team up and bring him down once and for all, at least regarding that crisis. For absolute evil, we have Dr. Eggman and Eggman Nega, two evil geniuses with IQs of 300 and shaped like giant eggs.
Silence!
One is the main antagonist, formerly known as Ivo Robotnik.
Silence! I am Dr. Robotnik, the greatest scientific genius in the world!
Whatever you say, Eggman.
The other is his counterpart from the dimension Blazes from, as well as his descendant from the timeline Silver comes from, a fact I'll ignore any further. Eggman is a complicated guy.
I'm a complicated guy.
Like I said, a complicated guy bent on world domination. Anyway, he is Sonic's arch-enemy, and has been for a long time. Just about every time there's an evil plot for world conquest in need of foiling, Eggman has a large part to play, regardless of if he's the main cause or if it goes beyond his control.
It's backfiring! Impossible! How? Ta-da!
Thankfully, Eggman's plans are always stopped by Sonic, which includes the time he conquered 99% of the world. But there's one fact that stops Eggman from falling any lower on this spectrum. He'll team up with Sonic and his friends should a greater evil putting the world in danger reveal itself, as Eggman only wants to rule the world, not destroy it. Eggman Nega is just as evil as his ancestor in every way. The only difference is that he's more unstable, to the point where Eggman either freaks out, like the time Sonic and Blaze defeated their Egg Wizard, or is forced to work with his enemies to stop his descendant. Once when he was trying to turn everyone and everything into cards, the other when he tried releasing an interdimensional effort to burn the world to ashes. Simply put, one egghead is better than two. For extreme evil, we have the Bio-Lizard and Dark Gaia. Both are mindless beasts capable of great devastation of earth-shattering proportions that makes Eggman's evil schemes seem like child's play. The Bio-Lizard is the prototype of the ultimate life form. Upon his completion, the Bio-Lizard caused many troubles for the Ark's researchers, striking fear into their hearts with his recklessness and hostility, forcing Gerald to subdue the creature and encapsulate him. It was this fear that found its way to Gun and set the stage for their inevitable infiltration. Fast forward 5 decades, the Bio-Lizard is reawakened to confront Sonic and Knuckles at the core of the space colony Ark before Shadow appears to distract him. But what takes the cake is that the prototype fused with the Ark itself to keep it on its collision course with Earth, becoming the final hazard, forcing Sonic and Shadow to turn super and permanently destroy him, therefore returning the Ark to its correct orbit. Dark Gaia is a deity that draws power from the night and dark and guides the planet to its dark age. He is a malevolent force of nature whose only instinct is to destroy the world, showing no reason nor regret for any of his actions, seeing as he immediately swatted Eggman away as soon as he became aware of his presence. But he did show some cunning, both when he confronted Sonic and Light Gaia by almost immediately taking back the dark fragments that caused Sonic's nightly transformation, rendering the hero physically drained, and during his battle with them, where he planned some of his attacks against his light counterpart. Not to mention, he was able to achieve his complete form for the final phase of the battle, which forced Sonic to turn super and ultimately return him to dormancy, until the day he and Light Gaia are to reawaken and repeat their endless cycle. The Bio-Lizard and Dark Gaia are creatures of grave danger, but there are still a few on the spectrum that are much worse. Morality Breakdown is paused for the following messages. Okay, Morality Breakdown can resume play. For notable good, we have Shara, Chip aka Light Gaia, and Caliburn. 3 more characters with no connection to one another but has one with Sonic, only they stuck by him during his time with them. Shara is a genie, the genie of the ring, capable of granting simple wishes from the storybook world of the 1001 Arabian Nights, where in her version of the tale Aladdin and the Magic Lamp, the genie of said lamp was using his magic to erase the tales of the entire storybook to fuel his power until there was nothing left. Shara was then forced to seek out Sonic in his world so he can help her return her world to normal. She had him put on her ring, which bound the two together as master and genie, and for her to protect him throughout his time in the Arabian Nights. During the course of this adventure, we learned that Shara, while helpful and loyal, was also pretty timid and had a great fear of Eraser Jin, more specifically, being on the receiving end of his evil magic, a fact she kept bottled up. On top of that, she also felt guilt when Sonic took a flaming arrow for her, which would end his life should it go out. And if that's not bad enough, she let her fear blindside her after she and Sonic completed the task that Eraser forced upon them, which was to collect all 7 world rings, secret rings that bound all the pages of the storybook world together, and proceeded to give the rings to the evil genie. But thanks to Sonic snapping her back to her senses, she immediately made up for it by taking a killing blow meant for him.
Shara!
After Eraser's final defeat by Sonic, everything worked out in the end. With Eraser sealed away forever, the Arabian Nights restored to its former glory, and Shara alive and well again, no longer letting fear own her.
Thank you, Sonic the Hedgehog, the legendary hedgehog.
Light Gaia is an unknown species who suffered amnesia caused by his and Dark Gaia's premature reawakening, with the planet breaking apart into 7 pieces courtesy of Eggman. After Sonic crash-landed nearby his location, the two were quick to form a friendship as Sonic agreed to help him reclaim his memories on top of saving the world again. Light Gaia had a wide-eyed, awestruck, naive, and curious nature everywhere he went with Sonic due to knowing nothing about the planet even though he lived on it since its beginning. This applied especially to the natural beauty Earth had to offer, the nice people he got to meet, and the good-tasting food he got to eat. In fact, it was after eating a chocolate chip sundae supreme that Sonic started calling him Chip.
Chip? Gotta call you something, don't I? What do you think?
Yeah, Chip! Chip! I love it! Yum!
Unfortunately, he was also easily scared, taking a back seat whenever Sonic had to fight off enemies, and had some questionable moments as well, like whenever his appetite overwhelmed him, when he unintentionally insulted Sonic's werehog appearance, or when his curiosity got the better of him, but that ended up working itself out. By the time Chip and Sonic restored 6 of the 7 pieces of the planet, he was able to recover all his memories while still retaining a wondrous nature, and we got to learn who he really is.
My real name is Light Gaia. I draw power from the day and light, and guide the planet to its rebirth. My job was to protect the planet from Dark Gaia.
When the time came to face Dark Gaia in the planet's core, although he was scared, Chip really stepped up and played his part in laying his dark counterpart back to rest. But sadly, he too had to be put to rest, so he sent a fainted Sonic back to the surface and gifted his necklace to his dear friend, who wears it like a bracelet as a memento of their bond. What a guy. Caliburn is one of the 4 sacred swords from the storybook world of Camelot, but unlike the other 3, he has a smart mouth on him capable of witty remarks, jokes, and insults rivaling that of Sonic himself. Caliburn is a gentleman with courtly manners and believes he should be treated with great respect due to his status as a sacred sword. It's no wonder right after Sonic found and pulled him out of the stone, they began bickering due to the clash of their personalities. But that didn't stop Caliburn from training Sonic in the ways of knighthood. As a teacher, he came off as quite strict and took the code of chivalry very seriously, to the point where he'd overlook genuine acts of compassion, like showing mercy to knights who lost duels to him and helping others even if it contradicts important tasks. Forgetting those are marks of a true knight, so imagine his surprise when Sonic does just that and it ends up benefiting them, as the two finally began to see eye for eye. During the final confrontation with Merlina turned Dark Queen, we learned that Caliburn, when merged with the other 3 sacred swords, is the legendary Excalibur, a transformation only possible thanks to Sonic's perseverance to stop her, even after Caliburn took a fatal blow meant for Sonic, which got his blade cut in half. Having defeated the Dark Queen and everything returning to normal is not only proof that Sonic is a quick study in knighthood and swordsmanship, but that Caliburn is an excellent teacher.
Have you forgotten who I am? I am the sacred sword Caliburn. I am the one who decides who is worthy of the crown.
Even though we may never see these guys in another adventure again, Sonic sure is lucky he got to know and bond with each of them as well as he did in the time they had together. For definite good, we have Shadow the Hedgehog and Maria Robotnik. Another controversial choice, but even more so, at least when it comes to Shadow. But the reason he and Maria are paired together in the spectrum is because of the fact their souls are completely identical to one another.
What? Me? And Maria?
Maria was Gerald's granddaughter and Eggman's cousin. She was living on the space colony Ark when she one day caught NIDS, but that didn't stop her from dreaming to one day visit Earth fully cured of the fateful disease, nor did it put a single dent in her cheerful and optimistic mentality, which is her greatest strength. Shadow is the ultimate life form, the arch rival to Sonic, and one of the select few individuals to have a super transformation with the Chaos Emeralds. During the final stages of his creation, Shadow got given a soul that mirrored Maria's, which allowed them to form an unbreakable sibling-like bond, where she would comfort him whenever he got confused over his purpose, and in return, he would help her solve whatever problem befitted the Ark itself and its residents. And it also made them kindred spirits, as he too gained an interest in visiting Earth. Sadly, Maria didn't get to see her dream through, as she got mortally wounded by a gunshot from a gun soldier when she and Shadow tried to escape the Ark during Gun's infiltration to shut everything down. But she was able to muster enough strength to pull the lever on Shadow's escape pod, asking him to carry out her dream and fulfill his purpose in her dying breath. 50 years later is when Shadow makes his debut, in which he is reawakened by Eggman before he almost immediately framed Sonic for a crime he committed, played a part in blowing up Prison Island, and helped Eggman utilize the Eclipse Cannon for his evil schemes. That's a pretty bad first impression, but there's a good reason for this. It turned out that Professor Gerald was able to distort Shadow with false memories of Maria's death so that he'd share the scientist's developed hatred for humanity.
Damn you! No! It's not true!
And carry out his revenge plan against them, which was for the Ark to collide with the planet with the bio-lizard guiding it. Besides, he made up for it thanks to his real memories of Maria clearing his distorted mind by teaming up with Sonic to destroy the prototype, only the victory caused him to suffer amnesia, with Maria being his only intact memory. At least that didn't stop him from forming Team Dark with Rouge and Omega, where they played a big part in stalling Metal Sonic, while Team Sonic utilized the Chaos Emeralds to defeat him. Shadow's amnesia hit a critical point when Black Doom seeked him out to collect the Chaos Emeralds, while the Black Arms invaded Earth, as the Black Comet always passed by Earth once every 50 years. This made him vulnerable to Black Doom's deception, to the point where even we had trouble figuring out the truth after being given 10 scenarios. But Shadow collected the Chaos Emeralds anyway, and thanks to a hidden message from Gerald and Maria, Shadow recovered all his memories, defeated Black Doom, and destroyed the Black Comet, finally putting his past behind him, and has never turned back. Thanks to that experience, during his time in Soliana, Shadow was able to prove himself too strong when Mephiles tried deceiving him.
I determine my own destiny.
And was able to stop Silver from trying to kill Sonic by helping him see the bigger picture of the situation at hand.
Follow me if you want the truth.
The fact that Shadow is now a high-ranking agent of Gun, and has been since ending the Black Arms, tells us he was able to forgive them for all the trouble they caused him, and has become the hero Maria always knew he'd be. Sure, he has moments of greed, selfishness, and boasting of his power, but he still very much earned this spot here on the scale. For absolute good, we have Silver the Hedgehog. A master of psychokinesis, Silver hails from the future 2 centuries from the present day that's been altered more than once due to his travels back in time, as well as occurring events in the here and now. In his initial debut, Silver lived in a future that was harsh, bleak, and devastated by flames, courtesy of Iblis. The two were locked in an eternal fight that never really went anywhere, much to Silver's growing frustration, and that made him an easy target for Mephiles to deceive into killing off Sonic. By the time he traveled back to the present, he was relentless to see his goal through, and too stubborn to hear otherwise.
Chaos control!
At least until Shadow kicked some sense into him. helping him see the bigger picture about the entire ordeal. Silver was quick to make amends with Sonic, showing us he's willing to learn from his mistakes, not to mention he was the one to help Sonic realize that Elise could still be saved. And later on, when all of time was on the verge of collapsing by Solaris, Silver came up with the idea to retrieve the Chaos Emeralds to bring back Sonic when he died, before turning Super alongside him and Shadow to defeat the entity. All that ultimately resulted in a time reboot. In his true debut, Silver travels to the present twice, both times to drag Eggman Nega back to the future. Sorry, couldn't resist, and struck rivalries with Sonic, Knuckles, and Shadow along the way. The first time to stop Eggman Nega from turning everyone and everything into cards, and the second time to stop him from releasing the Ifrit. Rivalries aside, by the end of those ordeals, Silver was able to befriend them as well as strike friendships with the rest of the heroes, most notably Espio, who helped him against the Ifrit. From that point on, Silver proved to be a terrific ally whenever they needed him.
If we want the people to rally, we have to show them that strength doesn't just come from numbers.
For extreme good, we have Knuckles the Echidna, the last of his clan and guardian of the Master Emerald, which is a job he takes very seriously, to the point he used to be both wary and gullible when encountering people for the first time, and over time learned to become a better judge of character. Knuckles is best friends with Sonic and Tails, and has been ever since the misunderstanding caused by Eggman that pitted Knuckles against the two got cleared up. But unfortunately, that didn't stop him from being made a fool by Eggman at least 2 more times, though that can be chalked up to living in solitude for years. Besides, he more than made up for it each time and hasn't fallen victim since. He also struck up a bitter rivalry with Rouge over the Master Emerald right after meeting her, and when the time came for them to fight over it, he was the first to set aside his pride to save her from a nasty fall, and she in return no longer tried to steal it, though she was a little snarky about it. Knuckles even took it a step further and apologized before leaving.
What?
I'm sorry if I hurt you.
Many of his adventures these days sees him teaming up with Sonic and Tails as a member of Team Sonic, where the 3 of them together make an unbeatable team, such as turning Super to take down Metal Sonic turned Metal Overlord, and riding extreme gear competing in tournaments. Perhaps the greatest aspect Knuckles has is to keep going when the going gets rough, like how he was the one who founded and led the resistance when the world was taken over by Eggman after Sonic's defeat and capture, resulting in Tails becoming a shell of his former self. Knuckles may have his moments of anger when provoked, with a preference to settle things with his fists, but he's still more than deserving of his spot this high up on the spectrum. With just 2 spots on each side, a certainty of the best and worst draws near. The morality of the characters here is the penultimate. This is the exceptional tier. For great good, we have Blaze the Cat, a pyrokinetic princess from another dimension, possibly being Sonic's counterpart. In her debut, Blaze was brought to Sonic's dimension thanks to Eggman Nega teaming up with Eggman with a plan to rule over both dimensions with the combined power of the Chaos and the Soul Emeralds, of which are under her guardianship. Blaze was initially pretty shy, antisocial, withdrawn, and under the belief her flames were a curse due to others frowning upon her of them on top of her royal status, which made it difficult to make friends. So you can imagine her surprise when Sonic and Cream helped her learn just how powerful friendship can be, even after she picked a fight with Sonic when all he wanted to do was help her. And over the course of that adventure, she learned to open up her heart and put her trust in others, as well as unlock her burning transformation after recovering all 7 Soul Emeralds to fight alongside Sonic in his super transformation against both Eggheads. Upon winning that battle, Blaze returns to her dimension with a better understanding of herself, now seeing her flames as a blessing. Blaze's adventures since then shows just how much she's matured as a person with each one, like the time she somehow ended up in the future of Sonic's dimension and befriended Silver, where she was able to give the right advice when he needed it, similar to how Sonic would do so for others, or when Sonic and Tails ended up in her dimension and she agreed to team up without a second thought. There's also the fact that she willingly took time off from all her duties in her dimension just to visit Sonic for his birthday, showing us just how much he's come to cherish her bonds of friendship.
As much as I dislike relying on others, I'm grateful for your aid.
While that's all well and good, Blaze does display a fiery temper when provoked and comes off blunt when dealing with annoyances, like when she scolded Marine for being a nuisance, but that ultimately worked out for the better, as they now have a friendship that could possibly rival Sonic and Tails. At this point, Blaze no doubt will one day make an excellent queen for her kingdom. For super good, we have Miles Per Hour, better known as Tails, the one and only character with two tails and uses them as propellers more so than anything else. Tails is Sonic's oldest, dearest, and most loyal friend. In fact, these two are so close they're almost like brothers. And along with their other best friend Knuckles, they make up Team Sonic. One of the things Tails likes to do best is tinkering with his inventions, which mostly applies to planes so he can soar the skies. Just about every time Sonic undergoes an adventure, Tails is always the first to tag along, sometimes with an invention to benefit them, which he never brags about, offering lifts aboard his many vehicles, providing the necessary intellect, and is usually the one to figure out what the heroes are dealing with. On top of that, he's displayed some pretty heroic feats himself, like saving Station Square from destruction single-handedly, I might add, turning Super with Sonic and Knuckles to take down Metal Sonic turned Metal Overlord, and saving Sonic from a trap set by the Deadly Six. That's pretty impressive for someone his age. But that doesn't mean he's without fault.
Okay, please remind me.
Like when, for no visible reason, he gets the idea that Sonic doubted his abilities and grew bitter without really giving Sonic a chance to explain himself, when the duo were forced to team up with Eggman during their time in the Lost Hex. This put a bit of a strain on their bond, which only got mended after Sonic apologized for something he didn't do.
You know you never needed Eggman, right? I could have turned this thing off myself.
Sorry about that, Tails. I'll never doubt you again.
It's cool.
That's kind of out of character for you, Tails. There's also the time during the war where 6 months after Sonic got captured, Tails had lost it. I mean, on one hand that's completely understandable, given his bond with Sonic and the fact that he was the sole witness to his defeat. On the other hand, he distanced himself from the rest of his friends, leaving them to fight the war without him for 6 whole months. It's like he needed to regain his independence all over again. At least he still pulled through when they needed him most. One thing's for certain though, Tails is a valuable ally to have and is always a big help to all of his friends. For great evil we have Eraser Jinn, a power-hungry spirit from the storybook world of the Arabian Nights, said to be the genie of the lamp in the tale Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. Right from the moment we meet him, it's a given to just how terrible his overall personality is, as he's been erasing the Arabian Nights of its stories to make himself more powerful. He fired a flaming arrow at Shara only for Sonic to take the hit for her, which forced the two to gather the 7 world rings in order for the genie to both escape his world and remake it in his own image. By the time Sonic and Shara found the 7th and final world ring, we get to learn about Eraser Jinn's origins and what motivated him to his set path. Eraser was always a malevolent being long ago in the story he hails from, causing many misdeeds before getting sealed in a magic lamp as punishment for every single one of them. In order to serve his sentence in full, he had to grant the wishes of 1,000 people, which of course included Aladdin. Unfortunately, this sparked an endless hatred in the genie for all humanity and kick-started his plans that Sonic and Shara set out to stop. After Sonic and Shara confronted Eraser Jin with all 7 world rings in hand, the genie displayed the worst aspects of his personality by going back on his word regarding the flaming arrow in Sonic's chest and launched a striking blow to end Sonic's life to gain complete control of the rings. Instead, he struck down Shara and showed no remorse or guilt for his actions, losing any chance he had for redemption.
In the end, such is the weak power of a genie of the ring.
And the rings responded by transforming Eraser Jin into the incomplete monster Afuela Walela. Fortunately, Sonic was able to defeat him and return him to his normal state before he vanquished the rings, never to be seen again, and revealed to be in possession of the magic lamp. Eraser Jin was forced against his will by Sonic to revive Shara and restore the Arabian Nights back to normal before he got permanently sealed inside his lamp, complaining about his failure, going out on a pathetic note.
The world is mine! I cannot be denied by that filthy rat! Why?
I told you, I'm not a rat! I'm a hedgehog!
Sonic, having disposed the lamp in boiling lava never to be seen again, is just another testament to how dangerous Eraser Jin truly is. For super evil, we have Black Doom, the leader of the Black Arms that resided in the Black Comet, which alongside him and the rest of his alien brethren are now nothing but memories so bad that it had everyone question the truth at least 10 times. When Black Doom met Professor Gerald and was requested to help complete the ultimate life form, the two struck a deal in which the alien would donate his blood for Shadow's completion in exchange for the possession of the Chaos Emeralds, having just learnt about them to complete his evil plans set to take place by the time his comet passes Earth 50 years later. With the Black Comet in Earth's orbit yet again, the Black Arms began invading the planet while Black Doom sought out Shadow to not only find the Chaos Emeralds, but also to eliminate every human in his way due to viewing them as pathetic creatures of self-destruction. Black Doom would check on Shadow's progress every now and again, manipulating and deceiving him during each encounter, and by the time all 7 emeralds were collected, Black Doom revealed the full extent of his plans, which was to warp the comet to the planet's surface so he and his entire race could feed off on every single Earthling, showing us just how sick, cannibalistic, and despicable he really is.
Humans are a great energy source for us. They will be well kept.
And why he's shy one spot from the bottom. Thankfully, this was the point Shadow reclaimed all his memories and took the fight to Black Doom in the sky, where even in his most powerful form, Black Doom underestimated the power of the Chaos Emeralds and fell at the hands of Shadow, who then proceeded to destroy the Black Comet, thus ending Black Doom and the Black Arms permanently. With only one spot on each side, the ends of the spectrum mark the ultimate. The morality of the characters here clearly can't get any higher or lower. It's impossible. This is the clear tier. For pure evil, we have Solaris, an entity who's the sun god of Soliana with disastrous powers and arguably the most dangerous villain Sonic and the others ever went up against, and that's not even the half of it. About 10 years prior to that confrontation, the complete and utter failure of the Solaris project not only caused almost every person in the vicinity to die via explosion, but also split Solaris in half, becoming two separate beings. One is his raw power, known as the Flames of Disaster, and essentially a mindless but deadly monster, Iblis. The other is his conscious mind, made into an amorphous mass of darkness and the source of all his evil, Mephiles the Dark. Where to start with this dark being? Well, for one, he has quite the intimidation factor, as his mere presence alone when we first see him in the present day is enough to make Eggman flee the scene and even Shadow to flinch and take a step back. Mephiles is also a master of manipulation and deception, from using Silver's frustration and determination to save his timeline by tricking him into eliminating Sonic, to trying and failing to lure Shadow into joining his cause with small details of what's yet to come. And although he gets angry at his failures, he never loses his calm demeanor, always having a backup plan. Easily, the worst thing about Mephiles is his delight in causing others pain and misery, laughing maniacally after doing so.
This only proves you were created to stop Shadow, the ultimate life form. Don't tell me you didn't know. You may have been programmed by humanity, but what you did to Shadow in the future, that was
as seen when he taunted Omega with the fact on the robot's future, angering the bot further, and being the only villain to actually kill Sonic, which was done in a dishonorable fashion too.
Sonic! Sonic!
It was this act that ultimately led him to merge back together with Iblis to become Solaris once more, where he was free to end the world by destroying every timeline until nothing remained, showing he is completely heartless and has absolutely no remorse for any of his actions.
So that's why he wanted me to kill Sonic before.
Even after his defeat at the hands of Sonic, Silver, and Shadow in their respective super states, he simply reverted to his original form. The fact that this transcendent life form had to be erased from existence to end his evil for good only sealed his fate with his place at the lowest end of the spectrum. For pure good, we have Sonic the Hedgehog. You guys didn't think there'd be a breakdown without the Kinetic Blue Star himself, did you? This is the last spot remaining, you know, but as far as I'm concerned, Sonic is one of those cases where he, the main protagonist, places at the highest end of the spectrum, and here's why. Despite his flaws, like his recklessness, blowing off others, sometimes acting before thinking, and of course his ego at times falling out of check.
I was supposed to beat you this time.
Ah, I'm sorry. I didn't get that memo. I beat you every time.
Sonic's good traits far outshine his bad ones, and that's not counting the heroics he displays in every single one of his adventures, or the fact that he was the very first to turn super with the Chaos Emeralds, having done so far more than anyone else, as well as undergoing many other transformations to boot. Sonic is by far the friendliest person in the series, which is probably due to his many travels and him being a social butterfly, as he is the the one many of his friends and allies look up to, and is usually the one who serves as the catalyst to some enemies and rivals becoming allies or friends later on. Sonic is always the last to hold out when battling villains, with one exception of course.
Shadow! You're our only hope now.
And always comes through even when things are very grim. He always offers to help anyone who needs it for no reason, regardless of the kind or size of the problem, and always keeps the promises he makes. I'd say the best thing about Sonic is his unmatched insight, where he's shown to be the most understanding and supportive regarding any emotional situation by giving out great advice. He's also quick to forgive anyone who's wronged him and genuinely wants to atone for it, and has no quarrels with working with his enemies to stop even greater threats. The one thing Sonic loves above all else is freedom, whether it's his own or anyone else's, and he'll do everything he can to take it back should it ever get stolen. He also happens to hate everything evil just as much, which is one contributing factor to his indomitable will.
You're too strong to lose yourself.
I'm the reason?
Yeah, you never doubt yourself no matter what. You never give in to the night or the darkness inside your heart.
There's also the fact that being tortured and locked up for the 6 months Eggman conquered 99% of the world didn't even faze Sonic in the slightest.
Ha! The only thing inevitable here is my foot kicking your butt.
Sonic is a free spirit that cannot be broken.
I'm in a class all my own. Time to put up or shut up, Infinite.
And has a steadfast heart of gold.
So, how about you and me make like Eggman's hairline and recede?
Okay, so he likes to joke around with everyone on occasion, but he does get serious when the situation calls for it. Besides, he wouldn't be the blue hero we all know and love if he ever stopped joking.
Sorry, couldn't help myself. We're out of here.
And with every spot on the spectrum fully revealed, this morality breakdown is all over. Now what about you guys? Where would you place these characters on the spectrum? There is no way I would know unless you comment below. Wow, I must have done something right if I've earned your endurance for this completed spectrum. I hope to see you again in another morality breakdown, so feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you've yet to do so. You can also view the featured playlist anytime you like, and keep in mind, nothing bad will happen from honestly wanting to do good. God bless you, my fellow animation fanatics.